From the capital city of Charleston, West Virginia, this is Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis. Inside West Virginia Politics is brought to you by AARP West Virginia, your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State.
Welcome to Inside West Virginia Politics. I'm Adrienne Robbins. Mark Curtis will be joining us here shortly. Now this week, the 24th annual World Scout Jamboree came to a close. More than 45,000 scouts from all over the world spent the last 2 weeks in Fayette County. But before we head out to this massive event, let's take a look at how it came to West Virginia in the first place. Now, according to Senator Joe Manchin, it started 10 years ago when he was governor. Manchin said his staff came to him to compete to be the new home for the Boy Scouts of America. Then they put a team together to make it happen.
I said there's not a better place and there's not a more specific place than West Virginia should the Boy Scouts be. It's all about who we are. It builds character, basically a wonderful experience you'll never forget the rest of your life. So we had a wonderful team that went together and we worked very diligently. And then I went to Dallas and made our final presentation and pitch, and the rest is history.
Now, during the Jamboree, both of West Virginia's U.S. senators made a trip out there, and as you can see, they even got in on a little bit of the fun themselves. And they were just a few of the notable visitors the Scouts got a chance to meet and hear from these past few weeks. So now we're going to get a chance to hear from them as well. Let's head on out to my Inside West Virginia Politics co-anchor, Mark Curtis.
Good Sunday morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inside West Virginia Politics. I'm your host, Mark Curtis. We're on location this week at the World Scout Jamboree at the Bechtel Summit Reserve here in Fayette County. Joining me right now is Mike Serbaugh. He is the Chief Executive of the Boy Scouts of America, Chief Scout Executive. Mike, great to have you on the program.
Mark, great to be here.
First of all, I didn't know this. You're a native West Virginian.
I am indeed. I was born in Charleston, and my family is from the Charleston area, but also Oak Hill, which is right next to the summit.
Yeah, this is beautiful. You've been all over the country now since you left here as a young boy, and you're back here in West Virginia. What does it mean to have the Summit Bechtel Reserve here? This is a permanent, just gigantic location for Scouts to use, not only during the World Jamboree, but all around the year.
Well, this was our dream, Mark, for Scouting. It all came to fruition here in West Virginia. We needed a site for our permanent National Jamboree, so all of our National Jamborees are here. And of course, this event, very special. We're hosting, along with Canada and Scouts to Mexico, the World Scout Jamboree, which happens very seldom in each nation. Last time we had a World Jamboree here was 1967. So pretty exciting for us to have that, but we also have a high adventure base here. We do a lot of stuff at the summit.
There's so many things that stand out as I look around the property here, but the one thing that really stands out is how many young women are involved in Scouting. I've heard upwards of 40% of the Scouts here are women. Of course, young ladies in the Boy Scouts in the United States is a relatively new thing, but worldwide it's really big.
It's still kind of new here. There's about 170 organizations that are part of the World Organization of the Scout Movement, so 170 countries. There's only 6 countries that young women are not part of the program. So it's we were a little late in the game, but young women are finding that that's pretty normal around the rest of the world.
Yeah, my background in Scouting is I was a law enforcement explorer scout back in the 1970s, not to date myself, but we had a lot of young women at that time in explorers, and they went into law enforcement.
We've had young women in programs for almost 50 years.
Yeah. So. What's your takeaway? We're almost 2 weeks into this now, and it's nearing its completion. What's your biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway for me is seeing the difference in our National Jamboree. If you ask a scout, what's been the best experience? Usually they'll tell you the big zip line, the going on the rock climbing, the whitewater. Here, if you ask them, they've done all those things, but they say it's the culture and it's the people they met. You know, where else in the world could 164 nations all come together, Scouts meet each other, and they realize that when they hold this sign up, it means the same thing around the world. And our hope is that 30 years from now, when these kids all go back and they're in leadership positions in their countries, there's a lot less conflict on planet Earth.
It's fascinating because the only thing I can compare this to, I got to cover the Summer Olympics in Atlanta back in 1996, and in my 4 decades of broadcasting, this is the only thing that compares to that in terms of the international, not only flavor, but the camaraderie. You see the people from different countries coming together, exchanging different Scout items from their nation and trading them and so forth. It's really kind of cool.
Well, this is the largest gathering of youth in the world this year, and most people have said the only thing that would even compare is exactly as you said, is the International Olympics. So we are just so excited this is all happening right here in West Virginia.
Yeah, the only thing that bums me out, my son's an Eagle Scout, as are you, and I wish he was here to see all of this. He never got to participate in something this
Take
mammoth.
lots of pictures.
I will. I'm doing that now. I'm sending it to him on Facebook and so forth. But we've had cabinet members, business leaders, military heroes. We have had astronauts here. What is it about scouting that leads people to excel in so many different fields?
I think the way that scouts work together are a little bit different. We know that sports is fantastic for young people, but sports coupled with a positive youth development experience like scouting, it builds character competencies which foster leadership. And so you see leaders in so many occupations because they learn those skills in scouting. So you'll meet some interesting people here, from astronauts to, you can hear the birds in the background,
yep.
Bird keepers to heart surgeons. Everybody still gives their time to scouting because they know that it's worth it.
Yeah. I still want to try the zip lining. We're not right near the zip line. And
it's one of it literally is one of the biggest in the world.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance, you got to try it.
We'll see if my heart can withstand that. Again, we want to thank Mike Servois. He is the Chief Scout Executive of Boy Scouts of America.
Thank you, sir.
This has been a fantastic event for West Virginia, and as a native West Virginia, thanks for bringing it here to Summit Bechtel Reserve.
Well, bienvenido, welcome. Glad you're here.
What else can I say? We're going to have more from the Boy Scout or the Scouts World Scout Jamboree in Fayette County after this break. Stay with us on Inside West Virginia Politics.
Now back to Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis.
They've been sharing a lot of their songs, a lot of their culture. They're learning how to say certain phrases and words in other languages. We've seen how to work together, even though we have language barriers.
And welcome back to Inside West Virginia Politics. We are having a great time at the World Scout Jamboree here in Fayette County at the Bechtel Summit Reserve. I am so thrilled to introduce our next guest. He is Colonel Mike Fossum, an Eagle Scout, an astronaut, and one of the guys who helped design the International Space Station. It is an honor to meet you.
It's great to be with you here today.
This is terrific. What has this been like for you? You were an Eagle Scout, so
Sure.
obviously scouting was meant a lot to you, but you've worked yourself up through the ranks in the Air Force and at NASA and flown in outer space, and you've helped design the space station. How did being a scout get you to all of that?
Oh, the whole dream of flying in space started when I was a scout. I was 11 years old when we landed on the moon, and I remember walking out into the backyard that night, looking up at that moon with 2 Americans on it, just standing there, letting it soak in. And it's almost impossible to conceive, although we followed the missions closely. Our families, you know, we all did back then. About 6 months later, it was wintertime, and I remember laying on my back on a Boy Scout camp out as a campfire died down, and I was looking at a million stars in a clear winter night overhead, and suddenly it hit me. It became personal. It was almost a voice speaking to me. It said, I want to go there. I want to do this too. And that really set the whole course for my life. That was an impossible dream for a kid who grew up on the Mexican border in South Texas. My father didn't go to college, but that did spur me to learn, to grow, to work a little harder in school. I wasn't the top of of any of my schooling, but I was always leaning forward in that direction.
You've done well. I get chills here, and you tell the story because we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. Not to date myself, I'm a year younger than you, so I remember it very well. Neil Armstrong, if I'm not mistaken, was an Eagle Scout, correct?
Absolutely.
Jim Lovell, I don't know about Buzz Aldrin.
There were many Eagle Scouts. Neil Armstrong, probably the most famous, and just a beautiful human being. He actually called the National Jamboree on the way to the moon. We had a U.S. National Jamboree going on, and he talked to a scout from the spacecraft on the way to the moon because he wanted to connect with the Boy Scouts on that journey. That scout is here as a volunteer at the World Jamboree right now.
That's an amazing story. And I should point out, you're not the only astronaut that's been here. I think there have been a couple others over the course of 2 weeks. And do a lot of the scouts come running up to you? They see the NASA uniform, and you know you're an astronaut. I bet you're like a magnet.
There's nothing subtle about wearing your flight suit, into a crowd like this. And I don't do it. It's not for me. But so many scouts, and I've talked to hundreds of them, and I look forward to talking to hundreds more while I'm here, they will have the chance to say, I'm an astronaut. And to them, it's a really big deal. I sign autographs. I've got some things I hand out to them, so they can always carry that away. I've never been to a World Jamboree, though. This is amazing. I've been here to this property for the national jamborees we've had here, but the World Scout Jamboree is amazing. All of these countries working together, figuring out how to live together, making friends across the globe. And to me, it actually ties into what I did at NASA as a commander of the International Space Station 8 years ago, working with an international crew. We had language barriers, we had cultural differences, and we even had some things we had to work through. But we did so, and we moved from tolerating to accepting, respecting, and all the way to friendship and what I would really call love. This Jamboree is the opportunity for these scouts from around the world to make friends. Many of the countries here have disagreements on the national or the world stage, but here they're all scouts, and they're all enjoying this adventure, this experience together, and for the rest of their lives they're going to go out knowing people in dozens of countries around the world that they would never have had a chance to meet. So they've got a connection. When they see something in the news, they're going to think about their friend that's in that far-off place.
Yeah, and they're also going to think about being inspired, and you're one of the most inspiring people I've met here. An astronaut designer, one of the designers of the International Space Station, a colonel in the Air Force. Again, we want to thank Colonel Mike Fossum for joining us. Great stories about outer space and NASA and wonderful things, and a lot of it you owe to Boy Scouts.
I absolutely owe it to Boy Scouts, and just congratulations for the amazing international team that has put on this Jamboree. It has been just spectacular, and everybody is so happy. We're changing lives here.
Thanks,
Tens
Mike.
of thousands of young people here are going to be ambassadors, and I pray that they will be leaders in their country in 30 years.
I should have mentioned, again, he's an Eagle Scout as well. Mike Fossum, thanks for joining us on Inside West Virginia Politics. We'll have more after this break. Stay with us.
Now back to Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis.
What do you think of West Virginia?
Well, it reminds me of home a lot, so it's nice.
So it's almost heaven?
Almost. Just like the song says, but almost.
And welcome back this Sunday to Inside West Virginia Politics. We continue our coverage of the World Scout Jamboree in Fayette County, West Virginia. We're so proud to have this event here in West Virginia, and one of the main people responsible is General James Hoyer, the Adjutant General of the West Virginia National Guard. Great to have you on the program
Thanks
today.
for having me.
You were in charge of a lot of stuff out here, the logistics, the air support, the medical. I mean, talk about all the National Guard has been involved in out here.
So it's both National Guard and our active duty counterparts under two task forces. One's a joint interagency task force. We have 45 agencies from the FBI to the state police to Department of Transportation, and then we have a joint task force which has about 890 members here on site or around the area, and then we've been doing some exercises throughout West Virginia, our total package of about 1,200 military members.
This is something else. I mean, this is literally a city that's been created, almost 50,000 people here. I would imagine that's quite a task to deal with.
Absolutely. And the Summit Bechtel Reserve and U.S. Scouting do a tremendous job. They're partnered with Mexico and Canada for this event. A lot of great work, a lot of great volunteers, and then the Guard and the military and the other agencies get to play a role in putting West Virginia not just on the national stage, but on the international stage.
I know it's been a lot of work for you and your folks, but has it been fun?
Oh, absolutely. Our folks have enjoyed it, and also I think from a West Virginia perspective, this is our opportunity to help put West Virginia's best foot forward. But from a military strategic standpoint, this is an opportunity, I tell folks, for us to, instead of digging foxholes, build bridges. Somewhere in this group of scouts is going to be the next prime minister of a country, a defense minister, and somebody that we can build relationships with that down the road help us either deal with violent extremism or the near-peer competition we're going to have going forward.
You're a leader, obviously, the head of the National Guard in West Virginia. We've seen Rex Tillerson, former Secretary of State, here this week. Andrew Wheeler, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency. We're seeing cabinet-level folks. We're seeing astronauts, military heroes. I mean, what kind of leadership training do these young men and women get here in the Scouts?
So, as you know, one of the primary focuses of Scouting is building the future leaders of our country and the world in this case. So a tremendous focus on leadership and building good, strong leaders with character and moral values and well-grounded.
It's amazing, 150 different nations represented here.
Right, 150 different countries with scouts and scout leaders. The last number I got was roughly around 42,000 folks if you look at the numbers, and it's a major opportunity for the state of West Virginia, the United States, and the world.
And it's amazing. I mean, we're talking approximately 50,000 people here for 2 weeks. There have been no major problems or incidents. No. The weather has, for the most part, been cooperative.
The weather's been cooperative, and I think the way this has gone is a testament to the folks at the summit, that staff of folks, and the tremendous number of volunteers from scouting who have come to do this, as a volunteer, and that has made this event the success it is.
I had an admiral friend who I was very close with over the years, and he told me the best leaders he ever saw in the U.S. Navy were people that came up through scouting. Do you have a similar experience with the military? I think we have similar experience,
and we have a number of scouts in the West Virginia National Guard, to include Eagle Scouts, who've excelled in our organization.
Well, we want to thank you for your service here at the Summit Bechtel Reserve and for all you do for the state of West Virginia as the Adjutant General. General James Hoyer, thanks for being with us on Inside West Virginia Politics this week, and thanks for a successful Jamboree here.
Thank you.
We'll have more of Inside West Virginia Politics after this break. Don't go away.
Now back to Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis.
And welcome back to our final segment this Sunday on Inside West Virginia Politics. I'm Mark Curtis. Before we get to our final guests, I want to talk about my personal connection to the Bechtel Summit Reserve. It was just almost 9 years ago that I was honored to be the Master of Ceremonies at a dinner in San Francisco, where the San Francisco Bay Area Council accepted a check for $50 million from Stephen Bechtel on behalf of the Bechtel family that built this reserve. In attendance, former Secretary of State George Shultz, former Bechtel executive, along with the hero on the Hudson, Captain Sully Sullenberger, was our guest speaker that night. It was quite an honor to be there and be involved in what was the birth of the Bechtel Summit Reserve here in Fayette County, West Virginia. My son's an Eagle Scout. My father-in-law is an Eagle Scout. My dad made it to Life Scout. He would have been an Eagle, but he had to go off and fight in World War II. So I have a deep affection for the Boy Scouts of America and all they're doing. And with that in mind, let's talk about the international aspect of scouting. I am joined by Jack Sharp and Owen Reed. They are scouts from Scotland, and we have 150 countries here that are represented. A scout handshake here to both of you. Thanks for being on our program. First of all, Jack, what do you think of the Jamboree?
I think it's an absolutely amazing experience. It's really good. I'm enjoying every second of it. It's way bigger than I imagined.
Owen, how about you?
It's really an honour to be here. It is really warm compared to Scotland back home. But yeah, all the activities, everything, all the people you get to meet, it's really amazing. 150
different countries are represented here. This is so cool. Yeah. I assume you've made friends. How many different countries have you made friends with?
Quite a lot.
Quite a lot, probably.
And it's good because we're camping in the sea free next to lots of different countries.
Yeah, lots of different countries.
So who are you in with? Who's near you?
Next to Chile,
Taiwan. We're Papua New Guinea. We're playing football with them. Yeah. Loads of different sports. And the culture day as well, that was amazing. Yeah. Going around and seeing all different cultures, trying their foods. They got to come and try some haggis from Scotland and short.
Haggis from Scotland. Did you guys eat any of the crickets? I hear that was the big deal here, the crickets.
Well, I didn't see any crickets. No. I would have.
Well, there's a few days left in the Scout Jamboree. If you want to eat some crickets, find the tent that has those, because they're serving them up. We had them on the news the other night. Oh. Hey, I understand you guys won some awards for some of the water sporting events. Talk about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack.
Right. So on our second day, sorry, we went to Water Reality, and me and Owen got the record time on it, and we believe it's still
the record time, still standing.
Still standing. So.
Yeah, it was a two-man team, and it was. Did not know what happened, but somehow, yeah, we got lucky.
Somehow we got very lucky. And
well, you could go from the Boy Scout Jamboree to the Olympics in some kind of water sports, eh?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's a really good time. The standing time before it was something like 7 minutes, and we got down to 3:27, so it's pretty crazy.
So
there's a lot of water sports, whitewater rafting, kayaking, all kinds of stuff here in West Virginia. What do you think of our beautiful mountain state of West Virginia?
It's a really beautiful place to be in. Yeah, all the water activities are really good. It kind of helps with the heat, especially because we're from Scotland. It's way too warm for us, so the water does help.
Good way to cool down.
Yeah, good way.
Speaking of West Virginia, did you guys learn how to sing Country Roads?
Oh, we've known that for ages, yeah.
Well, could you sing a few bars?
Country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia.
I'll chime in.
Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads.
Oh, how about that from Scotland? You guys are terrific. Listen, we're glad you enjoyed the experience. When you get older and have families, bring them back to West Virginia from Scotland and tell your friends all around the world about the wonderful mountain state of West Virginia. It is almost heaven, right?
Yeah.
We want to thank Jack Sharp, Scout from Scotland, and Owen Reed, another Scout from Scotland. This has been great to have you guys on Inside West Virginia Politics, and thanks for coming to the World Scout Jamboree here in West Virginia.
It's been great to be here. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us this week on Inside West Virginia Politics. We've had a blast here. Remember, we are a podcast, so download us from your favorite podcast service. So we'll see you back here next Sunday on Inside West Virginia Politics.